Long ago, in a small village called Obodo, there lived a poor palm wine tapper named Okeke. Okeke worked from dawn to dusk. Every morning, he went into the forest to tap palm wine, and every evening he returned home tired. But no matter how hard he worked, there was never quite enough. His wife and young daughter often went to bed with very little food. And in Obodo, many other families were struggling too. Widows went hungry, children cried from empty stomachs. Farmers returned from their fields exhausted with barely enough to feed their own families. The village was poor, but its chief was not. The chief had barns filled with grain, yam, palm wine, palm oil, salt, food enough to feed the entire village for years. But those barns remained locked. The chief was proud, and he believed that everything he owned belonged to him alone. Then, one evening, something strange happened. As Okeke walked home through the forest, a voice called his name. Okeke. He stopped. He looked behind him. Nothing. He looked to the left. Nothing. And then he heard his name again. Following the voice, he came to a massive ancient Iroko tree. And beneath it sat an old woman. Her hair was silver. Her face was weathered by many years, but her eyes were calm and knowing. Without saying much, the old woman held out a small clay pot. Okeke stared at it. As long as you pour from this pot to satisfy those who are truly hungry or thirsty, the old woman said, it will never run dry. But the day greed touches it, the pot will become as ordinary as clay. Okeke hesitated, but took the pot and thanked the woman. Then he carried the pot home. The next morning, a tired traveler came to Okeke's home. The man had walked for many hours. He was hungry and thirsty. So Okeke poured palm wine from the little clay pot into a calabash. And when he finished pouring, the pot was still full. Okeke was amazed. Then he served an old woman. The pot remained full. He served children, strangers, farmers, and the pot never emptied. Soon, something changed in Obodo. No one went hungry. People who had once gone to sleep with empty stomachs now had food. Travelers came from neighboring village just to see the miracle. And when Okeke poured, there was enough. Enough for the hungry, enough for the thirsty, enough to share. But the good news travels quickly, and so does greed. The village chief soon heard about the magic pot, and he wanted it. It should belong to the palace, he declared. A treasure like this must be under my control. But Okeke refused. The pot had been given to him to help people, not to feed the pride of one man. The chief was furious. So, in the middle of the night, his guards went to Okeke's home. While Okeke, his wife and daughter slept, the guards stole the clay pot. The next day, the chief announced a grand feast. Wealthy chiefs and traders came from distant lands. The palace courtyard was filled with food, music, and laughter. The proud guests waited to witness the chief's great miracle. The chief stood before them with a confident smile. He lifted the little clay pot and poured. Nothing came out. The chief blinked. He poured again. Still nothing. He shook the pot. Nothing. He turned it upside down. Still nothing. The laughter disappeared from the courtyard. The guests stared. The chief's pride slowly turned into something worse than embarrassment. And the grand feast fell silent. He shook the pot harder, but the pot gave him nothing. Humiliated, the chief dismissed the guests. Then, secretly, he ordered his guards to return the pot before sunrise. That night, the guards carried the clay pot back to Okeke's house. They placed it at his doorstep and disappeared into the darkness. The next morning, Okeke found the pot. His wife looked at it and whispered, "It has forgiven them." Okeke looked at the pot, then he smiled quietly. "No," he said, "it is waiting." That afternoon, the chief came to Okeke's hut, but this time he came alone, and for the first time in many years, the proud ruler removed his royal cap. He stood before Okeke without any symbol of his authority. No guards, no palace, no command. Only a man standing before another man. "I have come for the clay pot," he said. Okeke looked at him for a long moment, then he answered, "The pot was never mine to keep, but before you touch it again, you must first do what you have never done." The chief frowned. "What is it?" Okeke looked him in the eyes. "Feed your people before you feed your pride." The words struck the chief harder than any spear, because he knew they were true. For many years, his people had been hungry while his barns were filled. For years, he had protected food, but failed to protect the people who needed it. And so, the chief finally changed. On the next market day, the palace gates were open wide. For the first time, everyone was welcome. The locked barns were opened. Foods were given to widows, orphans, and struggling families. Even travelers were given food before continuing their journeys. The chief watched as his people received what had been kept from them for so long. And for the first time, the palace was not a place of greed. It became a place of giving. Days later, the chief returned to Okeke's hut. This time, his face was different. His posture was different. He no longer came as a ruler demanding a treasure. He came as a man who had finally learned a lesson. Okeke silently handed him the clay pot. The chief accepted it with respect. Then he poured. And this time, the golden palm wine flowed freely. The villagers erupted in cheers. The chief lowered his head before his people, and Okeke simply watched, because the pot had returned, but something else had changed too. From that day on, the greatest miracle in Obodo was no longer the endless palm wine. The real miracle was that the village no longer slept with hungry stomachs. Lesson learned. Blessings do not stay where greed is welcomed, but they always find their way back to the hearts that learn to share. For more interesting folktales, do where to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.